Teri Brown. How are you today?
I'm doing just fine, thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you.
I appreciate you coming on and sharing your creative journey with the audience. It's been very interesting as I've been doing some research on you. Um, and as a writer, I think it's a wonderful thing to use that side of your brain.
It is, and that side of my brain, it's kind of crazy when it comes out because it's so completely different than my normal life. So,
Well, it's a nice way for you to live in a different world at certain
yeah,
times. Let me uh,
absolutely.
let me give the audience a brief introduction here for you. So they get a feel for who you are as we're in this conversation. You are an award winning author of nonfiction, and you launched your writing career by publishing five nonfiction self help books focused on real estate and finance, which earned multiple accolades. You're an epic philanthropic adventurer. In 2020, you and your husband rode over 3,100 miles across the United States on a tandem bicycle from Astoria, Oregon to Washington, D.C., raising money for Toys for Tots, a pivotal journey that steered you toward a career in fiction. You have a distinctive voice in historical fiction with your debut novel, Sunflowers Beneath the Snow, which came out in 2022 and won around 12 awards for you. Your second, An Enemy Like Me, came out in 2023, which unfolds during World War II, garnered approximately 27 awards. And your third, Daughters of the Green Mountain Gap, which came out in 2024, explores Appalachian healing traditions, demonstrating both range and depth, and has earned over 30 awards. In February of this year, 10 Little Rules for a Double Butted Adventure, a guided journaling inspiration memoir with lessons that you learned while riding across the U.S. on a tandem bike. It has won five awards so far. And in April of this year, your book, Little Lola and Her Big Dream, a children's picture book teaching children to hold onto their dreams even in the face of opposition. As a versatile storyteller, you're also a mentor. In addition to your writing, you host online for authors and are a co host of the Terry and Edith Show and actively mentor others, showcasing your dynamic presence both on and off the page.
Boy, I
Wow.
sound pretty impressive when you say it.
Right. That's not a lot of words for me to put together. Oh, it is impressive. And it looks like a lot of it has come within a short period of time, which is fascinating. But let's travel back in time a little bit and start off with your story in terms of where were you born and what was life like as a kid for Terry?
Okay, so I was born in Athens, Greece. My dad was in the Air Force.
Okay.
And so he was at a joint Air Force base in Athens. The base was so small that they did not have a hospital. So I was actually born in a Greek hospital in Athens. So I actually think till I was 18, I had dual citizenship, but once I decided to vote, I was an American. I mean, I've always been an American citizen because my parents were
Yeah.
from the US, but I had the dual for a while, which
Okay.
as a child was awesome.
Really?
That was my claim to fame. You know how you have to have that thing that sets you apart. Well, I was born in Greece. That just was my claim to fame. Relatively normal upbringing. I mean, I had mom and a dad and a brother and a cat. I mean, it was pretty normal.
Yeah.
Used to say that I wanted to be an author, but I also said that I wanted to be an Olympic ice skater and a brain surgeon. So I don't think I really knew what I wanted, but I loved books. I was an avid reader. I taught myself to read before I got to first grade, and my mom would catch me underneath the covers with the flashlight, and she would tell me, go outside and play, and I would shove books out onto the window ledge and then go get them from there and read outside, so she would leave me alone. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think don't know that I knew I wanted to be an author as much as I knew that I loved going away in a book, becoming someone else, learning something new. I always took on the persona of the character that I was reading, and I loved that ability just to go be someone else for a while.
Right, right. With being in elementary school and also too, as you're saying, being more interested in being in the books and being somewhere else, did you find yourself in school as someone that kind of sat towards the back of the class and didn't want to really engage a lot, or did you have a little bit of outgoing side to you?
I was very shy as a child. Now, I'm still shy. People say that I'm not. I've just learned to go around it. I've learned to tell it to shut up, and then I go ahead and be something else. But my initial impulse is still shy. Like if you tell me, okay, Terry, you need to go right now and walk into that bookstore, I have to kind of talk myself into, okay, I'm going to go in and I'm going to say hello and I'm going to, and once I'm there, I'm fine, but I
Yeah.
still have a shy thing in me. On the other hand, I had some really good friends, and with
Okay.
those friends, I wasn't shy.
Yeah.
Those friends, I felt like I could be me, but I was the kid. I knew the tops of my shoes better than anyone else. I mean, I knew exactly what they looked like because that's where I was looking all the time. I tended not to sit in the back of the class, though. I like to be right up front. And I think I was very much a teacher's pet. I was a good student. And so it was kind of
Okay.
nice to have the teacher interaction,
Yeah.
because often the kids, maybe not so much. I was very klutzy. I was the last kid picked on every gym team that ever existed. I was even the kid that they would say, I'll give you so and so if you'll take Terry.
Okay.
I mean, it
Really?
was that kid, right? It was
You
horrible.
you're
So
getting traded early on.
seriously, it was like, get her off my team. Like, look, we'll give you this good player if you'll take Terry on your team. I was that bad. And so
Mm,
I think that I kind of liked the attention of the teachers because
sure.
they were kinder. Kids are
Yeah.
sometimes kids can be a little bit cruel, and I was very shy and very nerdy and very unathletic, and so it didn't bode well for those early years in school. But that's all right. I managed to live through them.
Right, right. What did your mom do any kind of work when you guys were on the base at all?
No, no. So was a stay-at-home mom. Then dad got out of the service when I was little, and he worked in construction with his dad. They had a company. Mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was maybe in high school, and at that
All right.
point she became a travel agent. So,
Gotcha. Interesting that she chose that after being in Greece for a while.
yeah. I really think that she always had, even as a little girl, she grew up on a farm. They didn't have a lot of money. They never went on vacation. It was just, they just didn't get to do things like that. I think she always had a travel bug.
Yeah,
And so she married my dad and then went off to Greece. And then I remember growing up, we did a lot of vacations. They weren't grand vacations. We didn't go to Europe and we didn't, but we would always go places. We
okay.
went to Dearborn, Michigan. There's this,
Oh yeah.
there used to be like I don't know, like a little town, and you could go through all the different houses and see what life was like then. I don't know if it's still there, but we did
Yeah.
that, and there was like the Henry Ford Museum that we went to right in that same area. We did a trip to see to Philadelphia to see, those kinds of things. We did the Gettysburg, we did Niagara Falls, so we definitely were doing things. And then when mom became a travel agent, she and dad started really traveling. And then they saw lots more things. So I think she's always had the travel bug.
Yeah. That little town, I believe it's called Greenfield Village.
That's it. That is
Yes.
it. Thank you. Oh wow. Old
Yeah,
memories.
for sure. Yeah, it's not far from where I'm at here in Michigan.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and we used to go there on field trips uh,
Okay.
for school.
Yeah, well, I lived in Ohio, and so
Okay.
we often did trips that driving with kids in the car was still something that could be done.
Yeah.
So it wasn't unusual to find ourselves in Pennsylvania or Michigan or Indiana or,
Yeah.
New York along the more western edge, those kinds of places. And we saw a lot of those kinds of things. And even though that isn't like travel, it
Yeah.
is traveling. And as a kid, we did those kinds of things, and it was a lot of fun.
Nice. How about grandparents? Were they really present in your life growing as a kid?
Yeah, I have actually two sets that were very present. My dad's parents lived, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes from where we lived. My dad worked
Oh,
with his
yes.
dad, so we
Yeah.
saw them quite a lot. My other grandparents, when I was real little, they had the still had the farm that my mom grew up on. Then they sold the farm, and when they did, they moved into a home that I could ride my bicycle to their house. So
Okay.
that was really cool. However, they also spent half the year in Florida. So they were present for half the year.
Yeah.
And really that was the fun half for me because that was the bicycling half of the year. When you're in Ohio, you don't ride your bicycle in November, and that's fine because they were already gone, right? So they would be gone during those cold months, and then they would come back and we would spend time together. So yeah, I spent a lot of time. In fact, I had a memory the other day and I tried to explain it to my grandkids who do not get it at all because we used to wait for Sunday at a certain time of day because the rates were lower when you called on the phone,
Yeah.
and you could talk for a certain amount of time, but after a certain amount of time, the rates would go up. So you would sit with the timer, and then when the timer was ready to go off, you just said goodbye and you hung up. Like
Right.
there was no long-winded anything. Everyone understood that goodbye meant the time is up and you would hang up so that you didn't get the next rate.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. With that opportunity to have your grandparents so close and be around them, were there things that they were doing that might have been creatively appealing to you?
Yeah, my grandfather, my dad's dad, and my dad were both painters.
Okay.
They did oil paintings and they were beautiful, and I used to love sitting out. We did not have a studio, an art studio. If my dad decided to do art at our house, he just kind of like set it up somewhere. My grandfather had taken one of his garages and turned it into a studio, and I used to go sit out there with
Oh,
him, and he always had the easels set up, and it always smelled like the oil paints. I don't know if you've ever been around anyone with
yeah.
oil painting, but it has a very distinctive smell. And I
Yeah.
have one memory in particular where he sat me down. I had my own little canvas, and he showed me, he put one color on it, and it was called something umber. It was the umber yellow. It was like a very deep
Burnt,
brownish yellow,
burnt
right?
umber.
Right, burnt umber, that's it. And then he covered the whole thing, and I was to take a rag with linseed oil and create something by taking color away and
Yeah.
creating the lights and the shadows. And I'll never forget that. That was, I think, the first time that I really understood that a picture wasn't solid lines, but it had
Right.
more to do with depth and color, and where is the color and where isn't the color, and how
Right.
dark are places and how lighter places. And so that's what he was trying to teach me, I'm sure. And as a kid, I was just fascinated by that. Plus, I got to use linseed oil. I mean, how fabulous was that?
For sure. Yeah. Oil painting's a lot more of a process
Yes,
than many of the other forms of paint because you have to wait
you have to wait.
for
And I was not a patient child. So that was very hard for me because it was like I wanted to do something and then continue,
see
and
it
you had to
finished.
wait for it to dry. And it was like, so
Yeah.
I would say that if I were to paint now, well, actually, I never really painted much, but I liked to do charcoal drawings.
Okay.
So I would take charcoal, and I liked it because it was fast,
Yeah.
you know, and you could do that same thing that Grandpa taught me, which was you could make things really dark, and then you could take these eraser-like things
Yeah.
and lighten up spaces. And I kind of liked that appeal to that. But more than anything, I liked the fact that I could do it immediately. I could
Yeah.
see something I didn't like and I could change it right now. I did not have to wait. So,
Yeah. That's the side of being creative that it's more of a process of having the vision in your mind already. And if you're putting it down on something, you want to see it like it's in your mind. You don't
yes, I
want to.
want to see it right now. I don't want to wait. Right. Yeah, I've always been impatient. It still is not one of my strong qualities. I'm better at it now as a 60-year-old woman, but it is still not something that if I said, what are your top 10 qualities, it would not make it there. I don't have that kind of patience. I don't know. I'm much more. jump in feet first and let's just do it.
Okay.
And then when people say, "Oh, what do you mean wait?" I'm like, "Wait, I want to wait. Let's do it. Let's do it." Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not my strong suit.
That's fascinating being a shy person
I
as well.
think especially when it comes to something creative, that's a different side of me. It is a completely different side. So my world, if you saw me right now, in fact, I've got things right here. I've got okay, I have lists. I'm a list maker. I know what I'm doing every day. I cross things off the list. It makes me feel very good to cross off the list. I know what I'm going to do 4 days from now. I already have it listed. I just feel very, but when I write, I am what they call a pantser, which means that I just sit down and I start writing. I have no idea where the book's going. I usually have maybe a character or one scene or something that has prompted this idea. And I
Yeah.
just start writing and see where it goes, which is completely different from my real life. Like my
Yeah.
real life, if you saw me in real life, you would say this person is a plotter. She's going to plot everything. She's going to know the story from beginning to end before she sits down, and then she's just going to fill in the little spots. Not at
Right.
all. I cannot plot and write.
That's fascinating as well. What's your birth sign, astrological birth
I'm
sign?
a Libra.
Libra. Okay. All right. Hmm.
I don't know what that tells. I tell that to people, and almost everyone that hears it says, "Hmm," like I don't quite fit my sign, and it's probably true. I probably don't, but that's all right.
Well, it's probably just other aspects of your sign that come into play
Yeah,
that make it look like, okay, this is not, doesn't seem like traditional Libra.
yeah.
But usually that's what it is. The other aspects of your sign that are a little bit more dominant in that.
Well, and
We,
I've always wondered too. I was 10 days late, and
oh,
I
okay.
should have been born in September, which I think is a Virgo.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I'm wondering if maybe I don't have a little more Virgo in me, but I just couldn't convince my mom to let me out. I don't know.
It could very well be the case for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a little bit more sense there.
Does it?
Yeah, it
So
does.
yeah, so maybe I've got like some hidden Virgo in me because that's when it was supposed to be. But,
Right.
you know,
And also, too, I'm looking at it from the perspective of you being a shy child. You may not have wanted to come out so soon,
that's true. I may have been like, no, no, I'm fine where I am.
right? I'm safe. I'm warm. I'm comfortable. Let me just stay here.
I'm in no hurry. Yes.
Right. In elementary school, as you progressed, you said you're very good and with your grades and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Did you find that other artistic things were more attractive to you as you progressed going towards middle school?
Do you know what's really interesting is I have a broad range of interests.
Okay.
I I was really good at math, like exceptionally good at math. I we had this they were trying this program in my school and you could do math at your own rate.
Oh,
And
wow.
by the end of the fourth grade, I was doing pre-algebra.
Holy cow.
Like was really, really good at math. And
Yeah.
yet, and so that is like one side of the brain. And yet on the other side, I love to draw and I love to do photography and I played the saxophone and so I feel like I've got kind of like I don't know, like I don't know that I'm lean one way or the other.
Right, right.
I kind of have this where I was just very good in school. There was very little, I'm a good memorizer. There was very little that caused me any real issues. In fact,
Yeah.
I was really good in math right up through calculus. And then something happened where all of a sudden math wasn't math anymore and I didn't understand what they were doing. But up
Yeah.
until that point, when it was pure math, when it was, like
Yeah.
not this, I don't know, calculus to me is a very nebulous thing that I still don't quite understand. Well, we're guessing, we're estimating under the
Yeah.
curve, and it's like, oh, stop. You know,
Right. You need the hard numbers.
yes, yeah, math is math, and I don't know what this is, but right up until that point, I mean, I did really well with all of my classes. Math, science, English, it didn't matter.
Uh,
So I sometimes, I don't know, maybe I just have And then maybe that's the Libra in me. It's a balance. I kind of like a little bit of everything. There's just a lot that really fascinates me. And even to this day, I'm not still like the whiz at math. I don't use it. And so when you use it, you really do lose it. But I love sciencey things. I'll
Okay.
see a news story on something sciencey and I dive right in and I want to read it. Or I'll see something that is like a medical like breakthrough. I'm reading it, trying to understand like how did they come up with that because I like the science behind it.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I'm the one that says, ooh, if I get down real low like this with my camera and I look up into the light, I can catch this really cool picture of the flower, just this. So I have both of those. Yeah.
Gotcha. You have the bonus side of being a creative, and
Yeah.
that's being good at math, being organized, different things, being able to write down a list and then go after that list.
Yeah.
You've
Yeah.
got that dual component of where most and actually I should just speak for myself in terms of the creative component. I have a ton of creativity, but when it comes to figuring out how to structure my books and all that kind of stuff, it's like I don't even want to deal with it. It's
Right.
just
Right. So it's interesting. I just went to a artists retreat. So it
okay.
wasn't just authors, it was artists across the board. There were 22 of us there. It was really interesting. And I watched different people and I realized that I do have something that I would say a majority do not have. And
Yeah,
that's that ability to like organize my day, sit down, get quite a bit of creative stuff done. And then when I'm done with that, then I go about the rest of my organized day.
right. Yeah.
Where it doesn't, there was one guy in particular who was in the same cabin unit that I was in, and I constantly felt like I needed to be his mom to kind of help shuffle him into like, I think it's probably time to start writing now, like, and
Right.
and he didn't ask me to do that. And I tried not to do that to him, but there was this part of me that was like, he needs guidance, you
Right.
know? And I think that that might be it, is that I really do have my parents were very organized people, and I don't know if I got it naturally, if it was taught to me. I don't think it can be taught though, because I have four children, two are organized and two are not, and
Okay.
and they had the very same training. I did the same things. In fact, the two that are not, I work on harder, trying to help them be organized, and they still to this day are not, as adults, are not organized. So I think
Yeah.
that you're either born with it or you're not. And somehow I managed to have that organization ability. I also have, I took this test one time, and I have something that's unusual. People who jump in feet first, like I do, tend
Hmm.
not to follow through. They're quick starts. They're called a
Right.
quick start, but they don't usually have the follow through, and they need someone on their team who's good at the follow through. I happen to be both. I'm a quick start follow through, which is just an unusual combination.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So I jump in, and then while I'm free falling, because I'm jumping in, I'm learning everything I can so that I can finish the project.
Mm. So you're learning along the way
I do. Yeah.
and pulling things out along the way as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. With being in middle school,
Yeah.
did you
I
see
hated middle school, just so
okay.
you know. It was, oh, geez. I would rather be, if you could live your life again,
Yeah.
people say that, and it's like, I might consider it if I could skip from like 12 to about 15.
Yeah.
Just those, angsty
Horrendous
years.
time. Yeah.
Just very angsty years. I didn't like myself. I didn't think I didn't like the way I looked. Oh, no, I would never live that again. And all the hormonal upheaval. No, I would, no.
All right. So you
So we'll
answered
go into
most
the
of the
we'll go
question.
into this next section very much like this.
Okay. Oh, you answered most of the question there.
Okay.
That's perfect. So let's step into high school.
Yeah.
Did that transition alleviate some things? And if so, what were some of those things that you saw that helped make that a little bit smoother?
So in the middle of my ninth grade year, we moved from Ohio to North Carolina.
Okay.
At the time, I hated my parents.
Sure.
How dare they do that to me?
Yeah.
But I had also recognized that the really shy, unable to speak out loud Carrie, I didn't want that. I wanted I wanted to be more open. I wanted to try things. I wanted to be able to, despite being terrified of it, I really wanted to be something more.
Okay.
But when I'm living in Ohio with all the people that have known me all these years, they don't let you change. You don't get to be something else. You're the
Right.
Terry that they've always known, right? So I was the shy, uncoordinated, backward Terry who was teacher's pet, and there was no way to get out of that groove. So when I moved to North Carolina, I realized I had a chance to be something else,
Right.
right? And so I tried to be something else. And I was less shy. I was still shy, but I was less shy and I was a little more willing to try things. And a year and a half after that, I changed schools and went to a new high school. So I got to try it again. And then
Yes.
2 years after that, I went to college and I got to try it again. And by the time I was done with that process, I was much closer to who I am now, minus all of the years of experience at it, but much closer to, yes, I'm still shy on the inside, but I can talk myself out of it.
Right.
You
Right.
know, yes, going to a party still makes me feel very uncomfortable, but I'm going to go because I know that once I go and get started, that I will be okay and I will actually enjoy myself,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
can see that for sure. What I'm hearing from you essentially is that you moving to North Carolina allowed you to create a new character for
Yeah.
Terry.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then,
I got to be the me that I kind of thought I was in my head, but nobody else could see.
right. And then I would assume you got to build on that moving into the
Yeah.
next school.
So when
Okay.
I moved in the next group, it was like, okay, that didn't work so well. I'd like to be a little more of this, a little less of that,
Right.
and so you got to kind of refine the process and little by little. Like I said, even now though, I'm still on the inside a shy person. I've
Sure.
just learned what to do to put it away because
Yes.
I like I love being around people and doing things. I just hate getting to that point. I'm here at home alone and I have to go to that party. Between here and there, it's horrible. Once I'm there, I'm fine. So
Yeah.
I've just learned that you ignore this horrible part and you just go ahead and just, take a deep breath and you just jump in. And
Right.
then once you're there, it's like, oh, see, it's fine. It's always been fine. But I still making phone calls. You'd think that would be so easy. They can't see you. And I have to talk myself into making a phone call.
Really.
It's
Do
like,
you,
come
do
on,
you
Terry, we can do it.
yeah, do you find that your mind goes to a place of hypotheticals?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
Okay.
and and I immediately become 13 again. Like I can just feel all of the angst, oh, they're
Fascinating.
not gonna like me and they're gonna say no. And when they do, I'm gonna feel horrible. And I've learned and I tell myself now, you currently do not have, like, for instance, if I would like to see my book in a bookstore, a local bookstore, I say, you currently do not have your book in that bookstore. And if you go in and they say no, you still do not have your book in that bookstore,
Right. Nice
right?
reframe.
Nothing has changed. However, if they say yes, now you have your book in the bookstore, right? And
Okay.
so I have to do that I mean, I have to really sit down and say, this is what you currently have. And going in and the worst possible outcome is what? The same thing that you had going in. Okay,
Right.
then you can do this.
Yeah.
you know, but it's not an easy proposition. You have to kind of work yourself into the whole. I'll do that. I'll put it on my calendar. That's another reason I calendar. I'll put something on my calendar. I am going to go to the bookstores on Thursday.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
between now and Thursday, I can then be talking myself into the fact that I'm going to go do this. And now it's on my calendar and I feel pretty wedded to my calendars. And so now it's Thursday. I must go. It's here on the
Right.
calendar, you know?
Okay. That's a fantastic reframe that you've come up with to
Yeah.
be able to navigate through that, because I think many times creatives get stuck in those hypotheticals, and it completely keeps them from moving forward in a whole lot of things, whether it's a project, whether it's life, whether it's opportunities.
Right, right. Well, and I think that as a creative, we're really good at creating hypotheticals.
Oh,
I
for
can
sure.
come up with 17 bazillion things that could happen when I walk into that store, right?
Yeah,
Look at all of the things that could happen. This could happen, this could happen, this could happen. And it's not even just that I have a list. Like I can create whole scenarios in my head. It's not just that they're going to laugh at my book. I can hear the things they're going to say to me and the derogatory comments and the other people in the bookstore who are now pointing and covering their mouths. Like I can see the whole thing. And
yeah,
you have to push all of that away and say that's unlikely.
for sure,
That's
for sure.
unlikely. Just move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to circle back because we jumped over it because of your adverse reaction to it.
Oh, middle school. Here we go.
Yes, because when you said you felt like that 13-year-old again,
Yeah.
was there something at 13 that was really pivotal, that stands out above everything else that took place that created that thought to stay there?
I think so, and it wasn't done intentionally. I had very poor vision growing up, very thick
Okay,
glasses. And
gotcha.
I was told I was two when I got my glasses. I was so my vision was so poor that my parents realized I couldn't see because I ran into a tree in the backyard,
Oh, wow.
like just hit the tree. And
Yeah.
so very, very bad vision, very, very thick, far-sighted glasses.
All right.
So I would have been told by my eye doctor for years that when I turned 13, I could get contacts. I don't know why
Um,
13, but this was the big thing. So on my 13th birthday, I got contacts. And at the time, you have to figure this would have been in the mid 70s.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Contacts were still the hard plastic lenses. And so you would put
Yes.
them in your eyes and you could only wear them the first day for 1 hour. Right. And then an hour and a half. And then you had to kind of get used to the fact that you had these horrible things in your eyes. Leading up to that point, I had determined that the reason that I was not popular and the reason that kids picked on me and the reason I wasn't good athletically was because of my glasses. And that when
Mm,
I got my contacts, my
could be
life was
different.
going to change.
Yeah.
Right. And I got my contacts. And guess what?
Nothing
I
changed.
was now the same nerdy kid with contacts. There was no difference. I didn't become immediately popular. I didn't become immediately athletic. None of those things happened. And I think it was really hard for me to recognize that, oh, they don't, it's this way because of me. It's not my glasses,
Yeah.
and then all the angst about, oh, I'm horrible and nobody yeah, it was
Right.
just they're just so I think that maybe have a lot to do with it that I
Okay.
had this 13 was going to be this magic number where I changed and became something,
Right. Right.
and it didn't happen, and I was very disappointed by that.
For absolutely, I can imagine. The the interesting thing that's coming to me based on this conversation is that you had a perception issue as a child
Yeah.
because you needed glasses, right?
Right, right,
Um, and then in your mind, you're having this perception issue evolve into something bigger because of these external experiences that are taking place. These kids that are
right.
not being very kind. Um,
They teased me in Four Eyes, and the
yeah,
things that I mean, and I'm not gonna, like bemoan that fact. I mean, it's just what happens when you're kids, right? And but yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just thought that as soon as I got my contacts, that was going to just change everything.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it didn't.
But what's also fascinating, though, is the fact that you have this physical perception issue, right?
Yeah,
But when it comes to the creative side of you, that perception is completely different,
it is. Yeah.
which is fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I think that maybe my creative side was that place that I escaped to,
Sure.
and when you get to escape to a place, you don't take your big thick glasses with you.
Right. Right.
You don't take
Throw
your
those
klutzy
away.
side with
Stomp
you.
on
You
them.
don't take, right? Like you just, in my mind, I don't even know that I ever saw myself in my mind with glasses when I was being someone else.
Yeah.
Like even when I read books, if I was reading a book and with the character and I became the character, I didn't become the character with glasses.
Right.
I didn't
Yeah.
become the character and still be unable to play kickball.
For sure.
You know, I I I don't know. It was so I think that maybe that creative side of me just took all of that stuff and said, well, that doesn't exist in this world and pushed it to a different place. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to choose. Got to
Yeah,
choose.
absolutely. Absolutely.
In high school, are there any of your teachers or people who are over you in authority, are they recognizing this creative side of you and encouraging that at that point in
Yeah.
time?
I had an English teacher in the 11th grade,
Okay.
Dr. Clark, and I thought he was amazing. I thought he was the most amazing person that ever walked. And I think that I found him so amazing because we had to he wanted us to write every day.
All
And so
right.
you kept this, it wasn't a journal because you weren't writing your innermost feelings and things, but
Right.
it was for English class journal where you had to scribble something every day. And you would turn it in, oh, I don't know, every couple of weeks. And he would just kind of go through and make sure that you were indeed writing, right?
Yeah.
And several times on those, I would get like big check mark or a very good or nice insight or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that I am not the only one that he did that to, but I felt like I was the only one that he did that to,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it gave me a lot of encouragement to think that, wow, I have something to say. And he likes that. So
Right.
yeah, he was really good. And I actually, the same year for the next 2 years, my PE coach, and you have to remember, I was terrible at PE.
Yeah.
This was like the only subject Terry ever didn't do well in. He encouraged me. And I loved to swim. And he helped me become a lifeguard. He told me what I
Okay.
could do to be a lifeguard. And instead of focusing on what I could not do, which was anything with a ball, because it
Right.
would come at my face and I would cover my head. And, I'm just not, and to this day, I'm no good with anything with a ball. He found what is she good at? And then
Right.
encouraged me in those areas. And so I had those two and very different experiences, but both of them found things about me that they could say, these are really good.
Yes.
And I needed to hear that.
For sure. For sure. I wish that was more prominent in the world
Absolutely.
today. So wish that was more
Absolutely.
prominent today.
I saw a, like a little cartoon like thing. And it said, it was something like, you know, I don't know, it had something to do with if everybody were judged off of the same set of skills,
Yeah.
like a rabbit wouldn't be considered any good because he can't fly. You know what
Exactly.
I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it was something along that line, but I believe that about with people too. I mean, we're not all the same.
No.
And to these standardized tests, and I get it. I mean, I do get it. They have to have something, but in other ways, it's like, okay, so one kid's really good at taking standardized tests. Does that make them more valuable than a kid who's, I don't know, better somewhere else?
Right. For sure.
And just because you're good at taking the test doesn't even mean you're good at the subject matter. It means you're really good at memorizing and taking tests, which is a really cool skill.
Yeah.
But does it really state anything about who you are and what you're going to become?
No, for sure. Because it doesn't always apply to the real
No,
world.
No,
Not at
not
all.
at all. In fact, I
Yeah.
think they've done some studies now where kids who have high SAT scores, it does not show anything at all about whether they're successful in life.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
exactly.
might show whether they're successful in college, but it doesn't show anything about what happens after that,
Right.
which to
Most
me is
definitely.
more important.
Beyond important. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the real thing. It's the real
right,
world.
right.
High school, you all school really, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, and then into college, it's all kind of bubbles, right?
Yeah.
Like you're
Oh,
kind
yeah.
of in a controlled environment, so to speak. And
And
so,
if you're a smart enough kid to figure out what they want in that bubble,
yeah,
you can do really well there, but it doesn't mean that you have skills for life.
for
It
sure.
just means that you know how to do what it is that that teacher wants,
Yeah,
you know. And
absolutely. With this encouragement that you're finding in high school, is it starting to percolate ideas about whether or not you want to go off to college? And if so, what you might be interested in dabbling in?
so I knew I wanted to go to college. That was something my parents told me that I wanted. Now I didn't know that I wanted it, but I had been told all my life I was going to college, and so I never even doubted it. The
Okay.
problem was is when I got to college, I thought that I wanted to go into a medical field. Once again, I believe because I had been told that that's what I would want, that I was smart and that this would be a good thing for me. And so off I
All right.
go to my freshman year of college, and I'm taking all of these classes that will definitely lead me down a pre-med type track, and I hate it.
Yeah.
Hated it. Hated everything I was doing. I actually failed my first class as a freshman in college because I did not attend. I
Yeah.
hated it.
For
And
sure.
you cannot pass chemistry if you do not go to the labs.
No.
And I just quit going. I hated it. The classes that I passed that semester that I decided that I didn't know what I wanted from college, I passed my art class where I learned to use the charcoal drawings and a couple of other very small classes, but any of the really large classes that were done with, 300 people all in a lecture hall,
Yeah.
I quit going.
Okay. Did you
And
stay in state or did you go
I
out of state?
stayed in state. I stayed
Okay.
in state. It was the wrong college for me. I needed something smaller.
Gotcha.
I had zero idea what I wanted to do with my life. So actually, after my freshman year in college, I did not go back for a year and a half. I got a job and I just tried to figure out who I was. My mother to this day teases me and says, "Oh, that was those years you were trying to find yourself." And she laughs, but I really did need to figure out a few things.
Yeah.
And when I went back to college, still with no idea what I wanted to do with my life, I at least knew what I didn't want.
Okay.
I felt like I needed a degree so that I could get a better job. I had been working as a bank teller and it was okay, but it is not what I wanted to do the rest of my life. And so I did much better in school, but I still ended up with two majors and two minors and never used any of it in real life.
Fascinating. Also, too, it's fascinating that you went into banking because you were really good at just the math,
Numbers.
right?
Yes, the numbers.
So
Yeah.
that makes all kinds of sense.
I also knew that I could not do things like waitressing because I'm klutzy. And I
Okay.
knew that that would be a horrible, as I was trying to balance these plates and things that I
Right.
would constantly, I knew that I would make no money at that, that would be horrible. And so when I was looking at, well, what can I do? And I saw this bank teller job, I thought, that's something I can do. Like you count money, I can count money. I'm quick. I know how to be pleasant with people. I think I can do this. And
Right.
it was nice. The things that I liked about it was I got to be dressed nicely. I
Okay.
wasn't getting dirty and sweaty, which I never liked dirty and sweaty. And so this was like, oh, good, this is something that fits me. But after a while, when you realize that once you're a bank teller, there's nowhere to go with that.
Sure.
You'll be a bank teller the rest of your life. You might eventually maybe be a branch manager, but it's not.
Not an upward trajectory.
not really, no. And so I think that's when I decided I needed to go back to school. But even at that point, I still had no idea what I wanted.
Gotcha. And when you did go back, you said you ended up with a degree and a minor that didn't have anything to do with what you're doing in life now.
Right.
What did
So
that turn out?
I got a degree in education and
Okay.
and never took the final tests. So that you have to take like this NEA type test, and I never even took it. But I have a degree, but I never got the certificate. I have a degree in psychology, which is useless when you only have a BS in it. You know, you have to go on to do something with it. I have a
Yeah.
minor in math, and I have a minor in sociology, but that one's a little embarrassing because I have a minor in it because I had a crush on one of the professors, so I took every class he offered.
Okay.
And it just
Okay.
happened to be that I got a minor in it. It wasn't intended. And he never, and people ask all the time, and the answer is no, he had no idea that I had a crush. Well, he might have had an idea, but I never said anything to him. I just sat in all of his classes. I was in every class the man offered.
That's interesting because you gave an answer to a question that wasn't even in my head when you were talking about that. what where my mind went was, did he realize that you were in every class, and did
Might
he?
have. I mean, he'd have to be pretty blind not to notice that I was there. But I also wasn't, I never like went up to him and hung around after classes and made myself a pest. And
Okay, gotcha.
didn't write him notes. I didn't do anything beyond what any other kid in a class would do. And
You showed up.
I've always been a teacher's pet. So I still did my normal, you know, I know the answers and I might chat with him about something, but it was always very up and strictly about whatever we had just been talking about in class. And I was, there's no way I would have ever let him know that had, I don't know, I just thought I loved his voice. And he wore those sport coats with the patches on the elbows.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't know why that just, I could imagine him with a pipe sitting in a living room with a pipe and the fire roaring. It was stupid, but nonetheless, I took every sociology class known.
Right. No, no, no. It's not stupid. And the reason I'm saying this is because the way I'm looking at it as you're describing it is I'm seeing you create this character based off of the visual, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
you're
I was already creating characters and I didn't even realize what I was doing.
right.
But I got a minor out of it. So, you know,
Amazing. Bonus points. Bonus points on the resume of the
yeah,
education component.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Once you let's stay here a little bit longer in terms
Okay.
of how was the friend circle for college for you? Now, you mentioned earlier you had some close friends that you
Yeah.
got to know in elementary and growing into high school. Was college the same scenario? Did you develop some that were close?
Yes, I definitely, in fact, I still have a couple that 40 years later, we still get
Okay.
together and see one another. I never did the sorority thing. That was
All right.
not my scene at all. It felt way too, I was never the popular girl and it felt way too popular. And it was
Yeah.
like there's no way. I just knew that I'd never fit there. Like they would require that I be something that I didn't even know how to be. So I never tried
Sure.
that. But I did make quite a few friends. I often had more than acquaintances, less than good friends, but in each class there were always people that I knew that I felt comfortable wanting to sit next to and, you know, that kind of thing. But that would change from year to year, and so I didn't necessarily keep up with all of them. I never felt lonely in high school, I mean in college. I always
Okay.
had friends. I didn't do a whole lot of dating. I did a little, but not a whole lot. Yeah, I don't know. I I would do college again. I would never do middle school again, but I would do college again. That was fun.
Right.
And I actually would tease and tell people that if I could have found a way to be a perpetual student and make money doing that, that's what I would have done for the rest of my life because I like learning.
Really?
And
Okay.
so I enjoyed going in those classes and getting the lectures and learning about things. And I found a lot of enjoyment in that. And even to this day, I love doing research and finding out new things and discovering things I didn't know about. And someone will tell me a fact and, hey, did you know such and so? And it's like, I never knew that. Oh, isn't that cool? And I love then diving in to find out a little more, see what else I can learn. So
Nice, nice. All right. So once you graduate college with these degrees in these areas that are probably not really what you want to do, where does your mind go in terms of, all right, I've passed this point in life where now I've got to figure something out?
I ended up getting married.
Okay.
I got married. I actually got married in December and graduated in May.
Wow.
So the last semester, I only had one class left that I needed to take, but that last semester I was already married. And a year after I got out of college, I had my first child.
Okay.
And then I very much became a mom. I was a stay-at-home mom and I had 4 kids and I was just a mom. I'm not just. I hate that, but that's what I was, is I was a mother. And I didn't even I never really wanted to be anything else at that point. I loved being a mom. And
Okay.
it was very fulfilling and satisfying for me.
Yeah, you took on that role fully
Yeah,
at that point.
yeah. And really, really enjoyed it. I tell people that for me, being a mom is one of the best roles that I've ever had. Now, the best role is being a grandma. That is
Okay.
tops. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
everything I loved about being a mother, and everything I didn't love, I don't have to do because I'm the grandma.
Right. For sure. You could send them home if they're getting
Yeah,
too
like
bad.
like if it starts getting yucky, I can just worry about whether or not they get a well-balanced meal because they're only with me for the day. And if they want chocolate for breakfast, then that's what we're having,
Right. Okay.
right? And if they say, I don't like this, it's like, fine, what do you like? Like
Yeah.
I don't have to do any of that stuff because that's not my job.
Right.
And so being a grandma is like the reward for making it through the hard stuff of being a parent. And now
Sure.
you just get to do all the fun stuff. So, no, I enjoyed being a mother. I really loved being a mom.
Nice.
And so
Was
I didn't look for anything else for a long time.
okay. And was your husband, did he step into a creative field or did he go into something that
He was
was,
in my husband was a photographer.
oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and so I did a little bit with him. He did a lot of weddings and things, and so often on a Saturday I would go with him, and I was because I'm really he's not he has zero ability to keep things in order, and I have all the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And so I was really helpful to him because I would keep the list of what shots that
Yeah.
the bride wanted, and I made sure that he got them because he could leave a wedding and have forgotten, 30% of what she wanted to have done, but I'm not going to forget it because it's on my little
Right.
handy dandy check sheet, right?
Right.
But it was fun because I did get to be creative in that role as well, despite the fact that I was the person that kept him where he needed to be. I also could say things like, "You see a shot coming up right now. You
Right.
need to grab that. They're about to kiss. It's going to be beautiful with the sun the way like I could see it." And so that
What a,
was kind of fun. Yeah.
I've got chills right now. What a fascinating collaborative experience
Yeah.
on a completely another level of the marriage.
Right.
That's
Right. It,
amazing.
yeah, and it allowed us to do this thing together
Yeah.
and really focus on like where strengths were. His strength, he was a very good photographer. He could see things and he knew what to do, but he was really, really bad organizationally. I know where
Mhm.
2 of my 4 kids get it. I mean, they got it very much from their dad, and you can't teach that out of someone. They just
Right.
he was often unaware of like what time it was,
Yeah.
or he'd tell me this project is going to take me an hour. And I knew that that project could, I mean, I knew just, it was like, no, it'll be well over an hour. No, 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 it'll be an hour. And 8 hours later, and it's like, yeah, because that's just who he was. He is never on time, ever. He's never on time to this
Okay.
day.
Yeah.
To this day, he's never been on time. In fact, there was something on Facebook one day, and it was like, if you could get $1 million, if you could predict who would be 30 minutes late to an event, who would you choose? And it was like, first it
Well,
would be him, and then my two kids,
right.
and I would win all three times.
Yeah, for
I can
sure.
guarantee,
You could
there's
absolutely bet on that lottery ticket.
right, right, absolutely. I mean, we've learned in our family. So he and I are divorced, but we're still friends and we're still able to do things as a family, and it's wonderful. But we know that if we need him there by 2, we tell him 1, and that way he's sure to be there by quarter till 2.
Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Makes
you
sense.
just
Yeah.
yeah, you just don't tell him the real time, because then you'll everyone will be upset because he's not there, and he's not going to be there. He can't be there. He just can't do it. So
Right.
instead of forcing him to be what he can't, you just say, okay, we need you here by noon,
Yes, for
because
sure.
he's not going to arrive at noon,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
and then
Exactly.
and then my two kids who are on time, you tell them the real time. We
Got
want you there at 1. Everyone else is told noon. And then
yeah.
everyone arrives around 1. It's great.
I think that's the way it should be in life. You just figure out whose strength is what and what that it's not.
And right. And if they can't do it, they can't do it, and like I said, I tried with my two kids who really aren't good at this. I tried everything. I tried different kinds of notebooks and schedulers and apps on the phone and reminders and alarms and no.
Yeah.
The answer is no. They
Yeah.
can't they can't do it. Maybe a little more with all of that support keeps them from like losing jobs because they do make it to work on time, etc.
Right.
But not anything that comes close to naturally understanding how to organize things, get it done. It's just not there. It's just not there.
Yeah. I think that's the difficult side of attributes that individuals have to learn to work with. And unfortunately, it doesn't help all the time in
Right.
the world, but also too, a lot of times they don't seem to take on all the seriousness that of a lot
Yeah.
of us do.
Yeah. 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 The, the stress level is down.
Right,
I'm
right.
highly stressed. I'm
Same
always
here.
aware of what time it is. I'm always aware of what people expect of me. I'm always aware. And yeah, I have my youngest daughter in particular just doesn't bother her. Other people's expectations are just, it's their issue, not hers.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
And I think, oh, if I could be just even a little more like that, not exactly like that. I think that I would probably lose my mind, but maybe a little,
Yeah,
just a little more that way. It would
for sure.
reduce an enormous amount of stress. But
Absolutely. You'd probably eliminate a whole lot of that shyness too that's
yeah,
there.
because you just don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
She just now it's interesting. She has Asperger's, which is a form of autism,
Yeah, yeah.
and she gets along well in the world. She's, high functioning and does her life. But we were talking one day about, like stage fright,
Yeah.
because she decided that she was going to do this thing where she stood up and went to one of these storytelling things, and she just stood up and made up a story right on the spot in front of all these people. She'd never done that before. She just stood up and did it, right?
Wow.
And did wouldn't say that she was the best person up there, but she certainly wasn't the worst, and she did fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
And I asked her about stage fright, and she was like, what do you even mean? And I said, well, like anxiety, like fear of standing up and looking ridiculous.
Yeah.
She said, why would you fear looking ridiculous? What do these people care if I'm ridiculous?
Amazing.
Like she just it just doesn't even register with her that way. And I think, we call these people neurodivergent, and I wonder if they don't have it right.
Exactly. I'm
And
with you
it's
100%.
the rest of us that are all like, I'm the one who's an anxious mess, and
Yeah.
she's not.
Right.
And we call her divergent. And I'm wondering if perhaps
I think you're 100% right on that. I think we
right?
have all the definitions backwards.
I think so too, because she's just like, "Oh, it's on them. They don't like it, they don't have to listen,
Yeah, that's fascinating.
you know." And
Fascinating.
it's like, wow. And then my oldest daughter was in the audience watching, and she was bright red and could hardly look at her sister the whole time. And I said, "She's doing fine. Why are you so embarrassed?" And she said, "Someone has to be. She doesn't know to be embarrassed, so I'm embarrassed for her." Like she takes it all on. She takes not only her own embarrassment, but the world's, and I think she's the one who's considered neurotypical,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
my neurodivergent kid's up there, having a ball.
Right. Yeah, that's backwards.
Yeah, I think
It's
so.
for
I
sure
think it
back.
is. I think it is.
One of the other things that I found very fascinating when you started talking about working with your husband in the
Yeah.
photography scenarios was that I was seeing the storyteller come out in that description because you were already seeing and anticipating the event that was going to be the perfect snapshot
Yeah. Yeah.
take place.
Yeah.
Um, it was very fascinating to hear you talk like that at that point and describe it in that way. All right, so let's move through marriage and children a little bit quicker than we were doing moving
Okay.
early life. Once you start getting to the kids being in their teens, late later teens, towards the end
Yeah.
of high school,
Yeah.
are you starting to think about, all right, what am I going to do once they get out? What is mom going to do once they finish? Because they're about to hit complete
Right.
adult.
Right. And that's a scary thing when your life has centered for many, many years
Yeah,
on your kids.
for sure.
Like I've been a mom. That has been my role almost entirely. We do have to step back. When I got divorced, I had to figure out a way to make an income,
Okay.
but I still wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And I was homeschooling my kids. So
Oh, really?
I really wanted to still be able to continue that. I didn't want to have everyone change in the middle when
Right.
and so I found that I could do writing for small businesses.
Oh, wow.
And you figure in 2000, I started doing this in 2000. In 2000, the internet was still a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
were a lot of people, a lot of companies who were putting their websites up for the very first time.
Yeah.
And what they were putting up was terrible.
Right.
The content that they had was horrible. Was no AI. There was nobody else to write it for them. And they were not good at it. This was not where they could shine.
Yeah.
I realized that I could shine there. And so I would reach out to some of these small companies and tell them, look, I can help you revamp your website. This is how much it's going to cost. Well, what was great was I could do that from home.
Right.
So I did it around my children's schedules. And sometimes that meant writing late into the night, but fine, I still got to be able to be a stay-at-home mom. So I did that for many years, but still now they're getting ready to grow up and move out. I've
Yeah.
since remarried, and
Okay.
it was a very bad decision. It was a poor decision on my part. I can see it now, couldn't see it then. He was emotionally abusive. He was a horrible guy. But I stayed married to him for 14 years because I didn't want to be divorced twice. You
Got
know,
you. Okay. So the photographer, we
the
left him
photographer, we
at it
left him.
about
I
the
got
one.
remarried.
Got it.
Now this is a horrible relationship. So I am doing my writing on the side. I'm married to this horrible guy. My kids are now growing up. They're one at a time moving out,
Yeah.
and until
Yeah.
I'm down to just one kid left at home. And yeah, I really did wonder what I was going to do. I kind of went through a little bit of depression.
All right.
I I thought it was because I had turned 50 and I thought I didn't like the number.
The
And I
number. Yeah.
realized that the year that I turned 50, my son was already gone and married, and my next two daughters both moved out in August when I turned 50 in October.
Ooh. Okay.
And the daughter that was left is my autistic daughter who does not need the interactions the way I do.
Right.
And so she would often hole up in her room for what felt like days, and I would hardly ever see her. So I kind of went from being the center of my home to here I am. I thought it was because I had turned 50, and I really think that it was more of I didn't know what to do with the empty nest.
Sure.
Now what am I supposed to do with myself? So one of the things I did was I started learning to play the piano.
Okay.
I'd always wanted to play the piano as a little kid. We couldn't afford a piano or the piano lessons. And I thought, well, I'm an adult now and I have the time. So I did that. I started taking some art classes, not any particular thing, but like there was a studio that would every now and then do like a 3 hour intro to watercolor, a 3 hour intro to whatever. And whenever I could, I would go take one of those just because I kind of liked that idea. And I
Okay.
really, really, really wanted to start writing novels. I desperately wanted to, but I was terrified to because I'm living in this yucky, abusive relationship.
Right. Yeah.
And I already have people telling me I'm no good. I
Yep.
don't need to put my words out on the page and have more people tell me that I'm no good. So I have no, I'm not, I just can't do it. But I got out of that. My daughter, my youngest, turned 18 in April. And a week after she turned 18, I left the abusive spouse.
Okay.
And when I left, tell people words started pouring out of me. And I
I can.
started writing manuscripts, like whole novels. They weren't any good, but you don't become good at writing a novel the very first time you write a novel. That isn't how it works. It's like the first time you paint a picture, it looks terrible because you're still figuring out how to hold the brush and how to
Yep.
scoop the paint and all the other things. And so these weren't any good, but the ideas were just there and just coming and just coming and just coming. So it took getting out of that relationship for me to feel like I could write something, but it took a lot more for me to figure out that I could show it to anyone. So
Interesting. Interesting. The Did you still continue doing the web and
I
stuff?
I did that right up through COVID, a little
Okay.
bit through COVID, and then people weren't hiring as much.
Right.
And now with AI, it's pretty much
Yeah.
there
No.
isn't, yeah, it's pretty much gone at this point. What I was doing, it was a nice 20-year thing.
Yeah. For
And
sure.
and I made the most of it for 20 years. And then it there are still people who hire content writers,
Yeah.
but they hire them very differently for very different things. And I didn't pivot fast enough and really don't want to. It's not
Yeah.
where I want to be. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That makes sense. But again, too, a fascinating pivot at that point in time to recognize the opportunity and the
Yeah.
realization that, hey, I can help you tell your story
Right.
with my skill sets.
With my skill set. And I found that I started finding niches and like real estate agents in particular
Yeah.
often didn't just want stuff for their website, but they wanted little ebooks like 10 things you can do to prepare to buy your first home, 10
Yes.
things that you need to know before you go see the loan officer,
Right.
10 things you need to do to your home to make it sell faster, the 10, the, 10 renovations you can do to your home that will, you know, give you a return on investment, those kinds of things. And so I discovered very quickly that real estate was a good place for me to kind of hang my hat. So I did quite a bit in the real estate field in
Okay.
terms of this. It was all ghostwriting. It all came from the realtor,
Company.
right?
Yeah.
And so it wasn't about me at all, but it gave me an income and
For sure.
allowed me to still be home with my kids, which was exactly what I needed at the time.
Nice. And at that point, too, with stepping into that, another scenario that I'm looking at that is potentially a huge asset with the way that your brain is working, right? Is valuing what that is worth at that point in
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
What was the inclination that led you in that direction to be able to say, I can do this for you, and this is how much it's going to cost?
So it started out with someone who just knew me
Okay.
and who said, "Hey, have you ever heard of a virtual assistant?" I was like, "No, what is that?" And they
Yeah.
said, "Well, I've got some like emails that need to be written and some of these kinds of things. And rather than you come into the office and be a secretary, I can just let you do the work from your own home. Would it be something that you'd be interested in? I need about 10 hours a week." Well, this,
Hmm.
I was still with my first husband, and we could always use the extra money as a stay-at-home mom. And it was like,
Sure.
yeah, I'd love to do that. And because of that, then I looked to see if there were any other people who might be looking for this fancy thing called a virtual assistant that I had never heard of before. And I
Right.
found this guy in Florida who also needed about 10 hours a week. And it was like, this is cool. When I was writing for him, he reached out to me. So I was writing emails, like
Okay.
answering emails and certain things, and I knew what he needed. And he said, "I like your writing style. Have you ever considered writing a book?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, it's a kid, but no, not since being an adult." And he said, "Well, I have an idea for a book." And it was about kidney stones of all things. So it was one of these,
Oh, wow.
15 things you can do to help yourself with kidney stones. What a bleh. And he
Yeah.
said, "I have this idea and I have things I want to say, but I'm a terrible writer. If I gave you the information, do you think you could turn it into like a 50-page ebook?"
Okay.
I said, "Well, sure, I'd be willing to try." And he told me how much he was willing to pay me. And I said, "Well, sure, let me try it." Well, I did that for him. He gave my name to someone else. And before long, I was doing the writing end instead of the virtual assistant end. And
Gotcha.
it just kind of, I didn't
More.
know that existed. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that people would pay you to do that kind of thing. But when
Right.
he started paying me, it was like, "Pay me to take your words and just rearrange them on the page?"
Yes.
I said, "Wow, this is cool."
Absolutely.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
it was total happenstance. It just I think the person who started it knew that we were struggling financially,
Okay.
knew that he needed about 10 hours a week, and figured that he could kill two birds with one stone. He could help out this family that he knew, and he could get this work done that he needed. And then it just snowballed from there. So,
That's fascinating. And I want to highlight this for the audience as well, because this is where opportunities come across our purview as creatives, that we don't necessarily look at it as the thing that is going to be a thing,
right,
right? Because we have no idea what it is to begin with,
right,
but yet it's presented in a way. And I think, again, too, looking at your storyline, you being a person who's willing to just dive into it, right? You're willing to make that jump into it. I think that's the thing that needs to be highlighted here at this moment of where you're pivoting into a role that's going to allow you to get some financial stability for
right,
yourself and then continue on as you're exiting a relationship and take care of your kids all in the same breath. And I think that if a lot more creatives will open their mind and look at opportunities as potential rather
right,
than, I don't think I can do it because it's not in my lane.
right, right. I think that we limit ourselves. We make our lanes much smaller than they are. The
Yes,
skills that you have can often be used in other lanes.
for
So are
sure.
you willing to take the skill that you have, that you believe is your skill? Are you willing to use it just a little differently over there?
Yep,
And if
exactly.
the answer is yes, then you might find that for me, it was never a passion,
Yeah,
but it was a good job. And
yeah,
it allowed me to do everything else that I wanted to do, which included being a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling my kids,
for
doing
sure.
those things, and providing in a way that we didn't have to eat ramen noodles 7 days a week.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's the key thing. That's the key thing is because as creatives, many times we fall into a genre of that creativity that the income flow is not always consistent.
Right. Right.
But there
So what
are
else can you do? Right.
exactly there are other opportunities if you just look around and think of your skill sets and how it may apply to other
Right.
industries.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
fascinating. So, moving closer to the pandemic, just from your intro, I'm seeing this is kind of where you started to delve into some other areas of really, really shifting into writing.
Yeah.
One of those, which is highly, I can't even think of the word I want to use because it's so astounding. Is this travel across country
Right.
with I'm guessing a new husband at this point?
Yeah. So I've been married 3 times, which is not something that I feel proud of. And on the other hand, it is what it is,
Oh,
and
sure.
I finally got it right. So, yay for me. I met Bruce. I wasn't ever going to meet anyone again. I had no intention of ever marrying again. So I get out of that other relationship. I have no intention. I meet him anyway, and he just never goes away. And he tells people that he chased me until I caught him,
Okay.
is how he puts it. And
Good for him.
yeah, and he was the right person for me, but I was not willing to open myself up to even discover that for the longest time because I'd had 2 failed relationships and the second one was horrible. The first relationship was a failed relationship, but we were able to maintain a decent relationship afterwards, and we had these 4 beautiful children together and et cetera. The second one, there just wasn't anything redeeming about it, you
Sure.
know, and I had stuck with it for so long just to not be divorced twice.
Yeah.
And when I finally got out of that one, and it didn't, the end was ugly, and it was everything about it was ugly. And then I was very damaged. You spend 14 years in a
Right.
bad relationship, and you don't come out of it, looking and smelling beautiful. And so I'm writing all of these things. I'm showing them to no one. I feel like a complete loser. And my intent was I was going to be a grandma. In fact, I found out I was going to be a grandma shortly after I left the guy, and I said, well, that's what I'll be. That's what I'll be this next portion of my life is I will be a grandma. And I will
Hmm.
be a good grandma, and I will be a lonely grandma, but I will be a grandma, and that's just what I'm going to be. And I didn't see that I had anything else that I could add. At the same time, my oldest, his boy, had a friend who was walking the Appalachian Trail. So I'm
Okay.
leaving this horrible relationship at the same point that his friend is walking the Appalachian Trail, and he's keeping a blog. And I started reading this blog, and I felt like a drowning woman who had found the life preserver. And every
Wow.
time he would write post, and he didn't write daily because he's on the Appalachian Trail and he doesn't even have internet daily, but this post would come out, and I would read it and reread it and reread it, and I would live it with him, and I would feel everything he was feeling. And I kept thinking, I want to do that. I'm going to do something big and bold and crazy so people believe that I still have value.
Yeah.
Now, turns out no one else believed I didn't have value. That was me.
Right.
But I didn't know that. I was sure the whole world was judging me because now I'm divorced twice, and I've done nothing with my life but raise children, and I'm nothing. That's the way I felt. I'm nothing. I can be nothing. I'll never be anything. I meet Bruce. Why he was interested in someone, tell him all the time that I was very damaged. I don't, he said I could see beyond it. It was like, I don't know how, because it was pretty thick damage. But we we started, wasn't even dating. I don't even know what it, he just never left. But anyway, we were together, and he mentioned that in 1976, a group of college kids rode across the United States on bicycles as part of the bicentennial, and that
Okay.
at the time he was in the military, and he would have given anything to have been part of that group that had ridden across the United States. And that from that point on, he's always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. Well, I have not been on a bicycle in 40 years at that point,
All
but
right.
my mind said that would be an adventure.
Yeah.
And so I said, are you planning to talk about this until the day you die, or are you actually going to do it? And he said, no, I want to do it. And I said, count me in. Now I had no
Nice.
intention of marrying him.
Right.
But I thought I could go on an adventure with someone. You don't have to be married to have an adventure, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, count me in. This is something I want to do. We're going to go do this. So shortly thereafter, we went on a tandem bicycle ride because he has 9 different bicycles, 2 tandems. It's crazy. And I thought it was the best ride that I had ever done in my life. It was fabulous. He, on the other hand, said it was the worst ride he'd ever done because I squirmed on the back of the seat and it made it difficult for him to do what he needed to do on the front. But nonetheless, I was sold. And we decided that we would go on a tandem bicycle on this adventure of ours because he has been riding and riding professionally almost, not professional, but constant daily
Yeah.
bicycle races. There's no way, no amount of work on my end is going to get me to that level.
Yeah.
Like I can't catch up to that.
And did he do
So
that throughout his military career as
he
well?
did his whole, I mean,
Okay.
from the
Gotcha.
time he was in middle school until he passed away in January, but until January, the
Oh,
man was always on a bicycle. So we decided we would do it on a tandem because he can't go faster than me and I can't go slower than him.
right.
Like on a tandem, you got to do it together. And somewhere in that process, he convinced me that I wanted to be married again, and we got married. And then COVID hit, and it hit in March when we were supposed to leave in May. And so
Mm,
we didn't figure that we'd be able to go. And it was a very sad, horrible feeling that
sure.
here we were going to do this wonderful thing, and now we can't do it. And I hated seeing that on his face because this was something he had waited over 40 years to do. And now it looked like it was being, you know,
Shut
tossed.
down. Yep.
And so we started looking at what were some alternatives. And we finally noticed that things were starting to open up a little bit again, just a
Mm-hmm.
little, and that we would be outdoors.
Right.
And that if we could get started by the middle of July, that we could still make it before the cold weather happened. And we
Okay.
actually did get started at the end of June. And so we live on the East Coast. We flew everything out to Astoria, Oregon, got the bicycle put back together and all of our stuff. And we started and we rode 3,102 miles back to DC. For me, this was huge. You remember, if we go all the way back, I was not the PE kid,
Yep.
right? This is not, I'm a desk jockey. I'm not athletic. I don't like to sweat, all of the things. And yet I'm out on this bicycle every day, riding every single day. And people said, yeah, well, you were on the back of the tandem. You didn't have to do any work. And that is not true. He
Right.
can't ride the bicycle alone. Like
Yes.
I have to do my share. If I'm not doing my half, we're not going anywhere. And and it was hard. And I spent a lot of time crying where we would get off the bike for a break and I would cry and I can't do this. And then I would get myself together and I'd get back on the bike and we would go some more because I wanted this. I
Yeah.
really felt like I needed to prove something to people. Well, along the way, I really proved to myself, like, look at what you can do. All those things that you'd been told for all those years about how you're no good and you're not this and you're not that, that's all lies.
Yeah. For
Because
sure.
look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so we're coming up on DC. I can see the flag where we're stopping. We're stopping at the Marine Corps Memorial because my husband was a Marine and we were raising money for Toys for Tots. So it was like the perfect place to stop. And he said, do you see that flag? And I said, yeah. He said, that's it. That's where we're stopping. And I'm crying and laughing at the same time, just a complete emotional mess. And I thought to myself, you just rode across the United States on a
Right.
bicycle. You can do anything you put your mind to. It's not a matter of can you do it? It's a matter of what do you want to do?
Right.
So, what do you want to do? I thought, I want to be an author.
Mm.
And 14 months later, my first book came out.
Fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
that really changed. That's, how you can point to pivotal places
Yeah.
in your life. And
Yep.
that was a huge pivotal place. It is not that Bruce did anything to change who I was.
Right.
He gave me the space to discover it again.
Right.
I wasn't new at the end of the ride. I was me again.
For sure.
I figured myself out again because all of the crap that I had been through had buried
Yep.
who I was and my, all the things that made me say I'm diving in feet first. For years I hadn't didn't dive into anything because I was
Yeah,
afraid.
exactly. Exactly. The
Mm.
other two things that are coming up for me that are very fascinating. One is you mentioned when you got married, you said you had found your person.
Yeah.
And him being a military man took me all the way back to the beginning of when you were born.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it. At the point that we were married, he was now retired military.
Retired, sure.
But I think that someone who he was in the military for 25 years. And I think someone who stays in the military that long learns who they are,
Yep.
learns what they want.
Yep.
They're not really ambivalent anymore about those kinds of things. I needed someone steady like that.
Yeah,
And he also was someone who he just believed in me.
for
He
sure.
just he just believed in me. He had no doubts about
Yeah.
me. And he would tell me all the time, I want to see you fly. And I can't wait to see the changes that are going to happen over our relationship. And I'm going to be standing right there with you as they happen. And it was very strange to me to have someone who wanted me to change, but not for anybody but me.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't that he wanted me to change for him. He was
Right.
happy with me.
Yeah.
He didn't need me to be something else. And
Yeah.
he, and he wanted me by my side, and he also wanted me to fly.
Yeah.
And that just seemed so strange to me. Like normally if people want you to fly, it's because they want you to get out of their face. They don't want you around. Or they want you with them and they don't let you fly because they're too
Right.
afraid to let you go. And yet he was that person who could do both. He
Yeah.
could both let me soar and want me right next to him.
Yeah. Exactly.
And it was
Exactly.
amazing. It was absolutely amazing.
I
Yeah.
imagine it was. And I'm seeing it that way as well because what I'm also seeing is another scenario where you had those few instances in school where you had those teachers that were seeing the
Seeing
thing
that
in
in
you.
me, right?
Exactly. Now you're getting that again. Another fascinating thing is the fact that doing a tandem bike ride, and from the way you're describing it, this is prior to you actually getting married, right?
No, we started the process before we got married. By the time we went on the ride, we were married.
You were married. Okay.
Yeah, he
All
he
right.
convinced me to marry him before we went away, but we spent a year unmarried but practicing for the ride and then another year married and still practicing for the ride and
Gotcha.
then
Okay.
we went. Yeah.
So even the beginning of starting the practice together,
Yeah.
you have to get in sync with each
You
other
do.
in
You
order
do.
to do that and to
I
do
think that
such a
may be
journey.
one of the reasons why he was able to convince me that I could be married again.
Amazing.
Was because we were on the bicycle and we could do it together. And so many people ask still to this day, "Oh my gosh, did you want to kill each other? I could never get on a bicycle with my significant other. It's like a
Right.
divorce machine." And I guess it could be, but we were very well suited. I feel like in that 3 months of the cross country trip that I got 20 years worth of marriage. And
Nice.
not in a oh my God, 20 years of marriage kind of way, but in a we learned so much about one another. We learned
Yes.
how to resolve conflicts together. We learned how to work together. We learned who has what strengths and when to use them. We learned all of those things that can take years in a
Right.
marriage to finally sort out. We figured out in 3 months.
Yeah. That's fascinating and amazing as well. One of the things that really stood out for me, and again, this is a little bit based on our pre-conversation before,
Yeah.
was the fact that you're in North Carolina. All my family's from East Tennessee, and you wrote this book called The Daughters of Green Mountain
Green
Gap,
Mountain Gap. Yeah.
which is based on Appalachian healing traditions.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I intrinsically know what Appalachia is and what it means to people and the culture of that in that area. What kind of spurred the interest in writing about the healing traditions?
So I wish that I had an answer that was like so cool. And what it is I had a wart. And
Okay.
I know that sounds so dumb, but I had a wart. I was at my doctor's office, not for the wart, just for a regular visit. And I said, it was on my thumb. And I said, is there any way that while I'm here, you can freeze that off for me?
Yeah.
Because it's bothering me. Oh no, I was going to have to see a hand specialist. So I went to CVS and I got, some goop that you stick on it and the Band-Aid and, a week later
Right.
it was gone. Fast forward a couple of weeks, I'm talking to my brother on the phone and I'm complaining about primary care. Said,
Yeah.
it used to be they did everything in the doctor's office unless you were having a massive heart attack, they took care of it. And
Yes.
now they listen to your lungs and they take your blood pressure and then they send you away to do everything else.
Yeah.
And told him about my wart. He said to me, why didn't you get someone to talk it off? I said, what are you talking about? And he said, oh, I got a buddy that talks off warts. Well, something we haven't discussed is how I am the gullible one in my family. My family has often told me stories. I fall hook, line, and sinker. And for the next 37 Christmases, I have to hear about, do you remember that time when we told Teri and then everybody laughs because I fall
Oh,
for things. So I didn't fall for it. And I just said, yeah, sure. And then we went on with the conversation. But the other thing about Teri is that you do know is that I like to learn new things and I'm a research junkie. And so when we got off the phone, I had to look it up. I had to know if he had been trying to pull it on me.
right.
Well, lo and behold, there are people who talk off warts. And as I'm in there discovering these people who talk off warts, I find out that there are people who can blow in your mouth and get rid of thrush, and that there are people who can smell your breath and know if you have strep, and that there are people who can talk to babies that are breech and get them to flip.
Yeah.
And before long, I am deep in the mountains of North Carolina with someone known as a granny woman who is a healer,
Yeah.
an Appalachian healer. And as soon as I found out the name of this granny woman, Maggie, who is one of the main characters, started talking in my head. And she was like, I have a story.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, good. And so that's kind of where it came from. So it wasn't any like deep seated, well, I've always loved you. No, I had a wart, but my stories often come from very small things. A sentence said somewhere, a feeling I had listening to a song, a whatever. I picked up a shell one day and I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if it was a message in a bottle? I mean,
Right.
those are the kinds of things that start my stories. So
Yeah. Well, again, another fascinating component. You didn't see it as fascinating, but I am because I'm looking at it like, oh, you've got this thing that's making you feel self-conscious. Again, I go all the way back to
right, right.
childhood when you're wearing glasses, right? The thing that's making you self-conscious is spurring you into a place of figuring something out
Yeah, I
and
guess
work.
that's yeah. I was just so amazed by this ability that some people have around healing
Yes.
and the idea that modern medicine poo-poos that,
Oh, for sure. For sure.
right? When really, wouldn't it be wonderful to have both? I do not want to go back to the days in the 1890s where we did bloodletting for
With leech.
diabetes, right? Like
Exactly.
that's horrible. We do not want to do that. I do not believe that. I also don't believe that we should be taking arsenic and other things that were happening then. So I'm not saying that was a better time. On the
Right.
other hand, granny women listen very
Yes.
carefully to what their patients are saying. And they do things based on what they know about healing properties of different roots and herbs and what they're hearing about this particular individual. So if
Yeah.
there are four different things that we could give someone for constipation, they've listened and they know which one they're going to pick based on something that was said about this patient.
Yeah.
We have lost that in today's medical field. Today's medical field is all about protocols. Well, this is what we do first. Well, do you do that first even when you know that the person's allergic to something or when they have this problem or whatever? And the answer is yes, that's what they do unless someone else stands up and stomps their feet and says we're not doing it.
Right. No,
Right.
absolutely.
And so I think that I would just love to see a more wedded, I don't want to go backward,
Yeah.
but I think that sometimes the new and
Complimentary.
shiny comes in and we throw everything out. We throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Yeah.
and let's get the baby back.
No,
It's
exactly.
okay to get rid of the dirty bathwater, but let's bring the baby back. And I think that in this case, the baby would be the ability to listen and take each person as an individual and recognize that just because we always do it this way doesn't mean that that's the right way this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What's
So,
so fascinating about it for me is the fact that with the depression and anxiety and different things like that that I've experienced over the course of years, and then to, having a suicide attempt, working with psychiatrists, cognitive therapists, going to the University of Michigan Depression Center, being told they can't help me, all these different things where I've gone the traditional
right,
Western medical route, right, to
right,
try and figure out how to get this out of me, how to resolve this. I've had to take medications for it as well. But in 2017, I came across an intuitive healer, which,
yeah,
as you're describing, is a granny woman, right?
right.
Same scenario, lives in St. Augustine, Florida, and I started working with her, and I've worked with her for 8 years now, and now we're friends, and I help her with her branding and stuff like that for her business. But at this point, I've grown exponentially from a healing journey
Right,
working with her
right.
compared to 25 plus years of psychotherapy, traditional Western medicine
That
psychotherapy.
that didn't touch it. Well, and the other thing when you look at traditional medicine and not traditional but modern medicine is, for instance, with psychotherapy drugs, they can
Yeah.
give you something for depression and it might
Yep.
work for you and not for someone else. And they
Exactly.
don't know why.
Exactly.
So then they try you on something else, and then they try you on the third thing and the fourth thing, and then two things combined, and they're just experimenting. They have no idea,
Yep.
right? And when you realize that, and it's the same thing with a lot of things, even high blood pressure pills and other things. It's like sometimes it works for people and sometimes it doesn't. It shows that there's still a component missing.
Yep.
I love our modern medicine. I do not want to go backward.
Right.
And I just believe that there's so much more that could be done if we would listen to people and what they have to say, because there's there's more to it. And the other thing I really loved about my story with the granny woman is that she also put some Cherokee. She learned from a Cherokee medicine man. And so
Yeah.
she brings in some of the idea of community healing, the
Right.
idea that when we all come together, and I believe in that. I believe in that energy. If everyone around you believes something, it's one of the reasons I think that granny women can do what they do. They believe they can do it, and the person coming to them believes what they can do it. And our
Yeah.
bodies want to be whole and healthy.
Yep.
And so you're kind of opening yourself up to being whole and healthy because you believe it.
Yeah.
They've done all kinds of really cool research on things like people who get have a surgery. Those people who are optimistic heal faster than those people who are not.
Right.
Well, what does optimism have to do with medicine? A lot. And yet
Yes.
we don't look at that portion of it
No.
because what how do you quantify optimism, right? And so we don't look at that in the modern medicine thing, whereas in the granny woman, we do look at things like optimism and family support and those kinds of things that get left out of the modern. I would really love to see, and I think we're getting closer because Eastern medicine is really pushing hard against the doors of people who want to do more things like, you know, acupuncture and aromatherapy and other things
Yeah,
that are in conjunction with what we now understand about the chemistry of the body,
for sure.
right?
For sure. Yeah. I think it's the same scenarios we're talking about, the educational system as well with
Yeah,
kids and the
absolutely.
differences
It's
within
it's
kids.
not an either or. I think so many people feel like, well, it's this or that. And it's like, or it's this and that.
Exactly. I think it needs
And
to
for
be more
some
of an
and for
and
some people, it's more on the eastern end. And for others, maybe it's more on the western end. And it has to do with their mindset and their disease and their body and the way their chemistry works and all of the other things that go into what makes a person healthy.
for sure.
So
Yeah. If we can get back to that place, then I think we'll be much better off. One of your
absolutely.
latest books is a children's picture book,
Yep,
uh,
it is.
teaching them how to hold on to their dreams in the face of opposition. Did that come from some of your own personal journey, or was it some things that
You
you
know,
saw along the way?
it did, and I didn't realize it at the time
Okay.
when I wrote it. So my granddaughter said to me, Gigi, when are you going to write a book for me? And I had had an idea about this little train who, learned about other trains, and this it had come to me when we were actually on the ride. When you're riding for hours and hours every day, your mind kind of goes places, right?
Yeah.
But what's interesting is if we back up just a little, my 10 little rules for a double-butted adventure. Rule number 10 is keep dreaming.
Okay.
Okay. Without even being aware of it, I've written that book. I now write this next book, this children's book, and it's about dreaming. And I realize, oh my gosh, I've just written a kid's book for rule number 10 of my 10 little rules for a double-butted adventure, which makes me think that maybe I should write 9 more children's books that each have to do with one of my rules. But that was kind of maybe I should do that. But it's
Right.
funny because I did it. I did not realize I was doing it. It was
Okay.
not, I did not set about it. So, yes, it must have had a lot to do with the things that I had been through because the keep dreaming portion is something that I realized while on that trip that I wasn't done. My life wasn't over, that I could continue having an active, healthy, positive, joy filled, journey filled life until the day I drew my last breath. That I
Yeah.
didn't have to be done. And that was one of my rules now is to remember that. And then I go and I write a children's book that essentially says the same thing, which is, like don't give up on your dreams and you know, I don't know. It's just kind of crazy how you don't realize what you're doing sometimes. And then all of a sudden there it sits
Yeah.
and smacks you in the face. And you're like, oh, wow, I did that. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. That's amazing. This has been an amazing conversation, Teri, and I surely do appreciate you coming on and sharing it with the audience. I think this is a great place for us to be able to close out for today. And
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
absolutely. One of the things that I always want to remind the audience um, at the end of each episode, and this is something that you kind of wrapped it up with as well, is to always listen to your heart, but as well be kind to your mind.
Absolutely. Thank you.